All right, we're looking at Thursday, week 4. Now, I know this is later in the school year, but so we don't have to do the ones that you guys are going to do. We'll just kind of go back. I'll find some random ones in the different days of the week. This is going to be Thursday, week 4. Look at this, Luke shouted. I found a watch under the bench. Now, one of the reasons why I wanted to pick this day was because I like this first sentence because you have quotation marks that are interrupted, because Luke says two things. He says, look at this, and as you can see, I'm putting the quotations in right here. He says, look at this, but he also says, I found a watch under the bench. And so we have to quote him twice, and it gets interrupted. Now, first thing, we want to go ahead and capitalize look. Let's get that out of the way. So look at this, Luke shouted. If you look at the end of that first part, that's still a full sentence because you understood would be the subject because it's imperative. And so you have a full independent clause whenever you say look at this. So the key to that is that you're not going to have to use a comma after the word this. Even if it wasn't an exclamation mark, you would only put a period because you have a full sentence. Now, if it's like the middle of a sentence, and this part's kind of a dependent clause and it still needs more information, then you would actually only put a comma. But since it's full, you go ahead and put a period or an exclamation mark in this point. Luke shouted, then whenever we go into Luke shouted, and since the fact is that we have a full sentence over with look at this, we don't need to put a comma. We can go with the period. Had we had a half sentence there like a dependent, then we'd go with a comma again. But it's full sentence, so we go with the period. Obviously, we have to capitalize over here. I found a watch under the bench. And then this is okay to put a period. Maybe Luke was still excited, and maybe then you go exclamation mark. Doesn't really matter either way. It's fine. But the key is that you have the speaker tag interrupting in the middle, so you have to know what to do. If it's a full sentence over here, then you get the end mark in the period here, then you get the period here. If this is not a full sentence, it would have been comma, and then comma over here also. Okay, and also you would not have capitalized the first letter in the next part of the sentence. So that's kind of how you do that whenever the speaker tag's in the middle of a sentence. All right, number 2, Mr. Bach, why does you always wear a bow tie to class? So Mr. Bach has been wearing some bow ties. We address him. We want to put a comma. Okay, Mr. Bach, comma. Why does you always? That doesn't make any sense. Why do you always? And if you notice, you have 2 L's here in always, so you want to get rid of one of the L's. Why do you always wear a bow tie to class? You need an end mark, which would be a question mark there for that end mark. And that'll take care of number 2. Number 3, we had to add a prefix to these words to make new words. Content. Content means that you're satisfied with things, so you'd probably want to say that you're not satisfied. So discontent would be a good one to go with because dis would mean not, so you're no longer content. Some of you might have put uncontent. I've heard that before. You could probably use that. Reliable, then, if someone's reliable, it means you can trust them. If you can't trust them, in other words, they're not reliable, you want to go with un, and then unreliable would be the answer there. And then finally, we have underlined the prepositional phrase in this sentence. Barbara was sitting between my cousin and me. Again, to get prepositional phrases, you have to know where the prepositions are. In this case, we have between. And we actually have a double object of the preposition because cousin and me would both be objects of the preposition. So your whole phrase would be between my cousin and me. Again, if you know what your prepositions are, you can find the prepositional phrase because the prepositions always start the prepositional phrase. That'll be all for Thursday, week 4, which is really Friday, April 4th.